This conference will now be recorded.
Great. Good morning, good evening, all. I hope all of you guys are doing good. Can you please confirm if you're able to hear me and able to see the screen?
Yes, I'm able to screen that. Able to.
Yes, sir.
Great. Thanks for the confirmation. So let's go ahead and get started without any further delay. First of all, thank you, and I really appreciate all of you for joining to this Azure DevOps demo session from Career IT. We really appreciate your time why? Because we understand that it might be a Saturday evening or Sunday early morning. I really appreciate your time in joining this session. So without any further delay, let's go ahead and get started. So before we go ahead and introduce about self, right, and to move further, I do to think that it is very much important for all of you to know about the faculty. Why? Because we are now doing remote trainings, right? So earlier, I mean, we used to only go with classroom trainings. Why? Because probably the technology might not have evolved much, but due to this pandemic, things have been changed drastically, correct? So we are now started online, and probably being a faculty, I might not know about yourself. Even I might be pretty much new for all of you, right? So don't you think that it is a time to go ahead and know about your trainer? Why? Because you might have joined this session because you might have made your mindset to change the technology, or if you are a fresher or from a non-technical background, you might have decided that okay, this is the time for you to go to IT technology, correct?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So let me take this opportunity to introduce myself. So my name is Kranti. I'm one of the technical manager working in an MNC in Hyderabad. I do carry 14 plus years of experience in the IT industry. So out of 14 years, I've been into cloud computing technologies since 6 years now, right? And the two multi-cloud, not just into Microsoft Azure, but I've been into AWS, GCP, Alibaba Cloud, and DevOps as well, right? So I'm one of the lead corporate trainer in the company, right? So wherever I go and work, probably I'll take an opportunity to lead the training team basically. Why? Because by profession I'm an IT employee, but my passion is towards training people, right? So I've been into training since 7 years now, and I'm proud to say that I've trained so far 32,500 plus people, and the count is still going on, right? So being a technical manager or project manager, I have taken multiple interviews. Probably, I mean, it might have crossed 1 lakh or more than that, right? Why? Because I've started taking up interviews from the early of my career itself, from the day, I mean, from the initial year itself, right? So obviously, if you are an expertise or if you're a subject matter expert in any of the technology, your managers or company will give an opportunity to basically train the people whosoever joins the company, correct? And I'm part of the complete campus hiring. I mean, wherever we find the fresh college minds, right? So we'll be basically hiring them as well. So I was part of end-to-end campus hiring program in the company that I work for. So you guys might have a question as to, hey Kranti, we have hell lot of institutes in the market now. Everybody with this pandemic that has been come into picture, everybody started online trainings as well. So why there is a uniqueness where career IT online trainings is having when you compare with any of the other institutes or online trainers in the market, correct? So yes, we are unique. Why? Because the training pattern, the content that we have, the kind of real-time scenarios that we go with, and there are certain additional add-ons that we basically provide as part of the training makes us unique in the market. So let's talk about why we are playing a unique role in the market with the kind of strategy that we have, right? So you guys have attended the demo session today. So if everything goes well, you might enroll, right? So you might enroll the course with us. So obviously we have a course content. So the very day one we might have to pick up a topic from the course content and we have to go ahead and get started, correct? So obviously I'll be taking a topic. Obviously I'll have to start from scratch. So I'll take a topic and I'll talk from the official theory perspective. Then I'll be bringing up mostly the day-to-day real-time examples that we basically see in our life. So why day-to-day examples? to help you correlate with the official theory from Microsoft Azure. Why? Because we are all new to a new technology called Microsoft Azure or Azure Administration or Azure DevOps, or basically cloud computing. So not everybody might be aware of the terminologies that we use in the technology, correct? So I have a habit of syncing up on a day-to-day basis from the daily examples that we come across in our life, so that you'll be able to correlate them, and it will help you to learn the cloud terminology super fast. So once the day-to-day examples are done, I'll be bringing in a real-time situation from whatever the customers that I've worked, whatever the kind of work that I might have done, how we get projects requirement from the customer, being a DevOps engineer, what are your roles and responsibility, and how we have to basically go ahead and get started with the work, right? So we'll talk about a lot of real-time scenario, and ultimately our goal is to make sure that how we can go ahead and add value to the customer based on the requirements that we might be getting, right? So once the real-time scenarios is done on the same day, we'll be covering the interview questions. So why interview questions? Why? Because your ultimate goal is to join a course. You should be going with the course content in the respective course duration. And once the course is done, yes, your ultimate goal is to crack an interview and to get a job as a Azure DevOps engineer, correct? So that's where it's all about cracking an interview. So on daily basis, whatever the topic that I take it up, I'll cover the interview questions also on the same day, so that you'll be coming to know, okay, this is the topic that we have gone through today, and this is the real-time practicals. This is the interview questions that we might expect from the theory, from the practical perspective, right? So it will be very easy for everybody to catch up on daily basis. So once interview questions is done, I'll be covering the interview tips and tricks as well. Interview tips and tricks based on a fresher, based on a non-technical individual, based on an individual who might be already working in an IT company and wanted to switch to a new technology called Azure DevOps. So I'll cover a lot of interview tips and tricks which will help you to crack an interview, right? So once this is done, we'll be covering 3 mock interviews. So why mock interviews? Why? Because my job in career IT is let's just not just come online on the given day and just teach the topic and say goodbye, guys. My job with career IT here is I'll analyze each and every individual who might have enrolled for the course. Why? Because there is a saying, right? Zero to hero. So nobody can become a hero overnight, but you might definitely come up with an expectation stating that, okay, I'm starting with zero knowledge on Azure DevOps today or on cloud computing. So what would be my takeaway after completing this course? So I would be making sure that at least I will be helping you to reach to an intermediate level from a zero level, right? Why? Because not everybody might be knowing about this technology terminologies. So my goal here is to ensure that I'll be helping from all the perspectives to make sure that you guys are cracking the interview, right? I'll be providing a lot of tips and tricks. I'll be covering a lot of interview questions. And based on the mock interviews, 3 mock interviews that we are going to do, one at the second week, and the second one is the middle of the course, and the third one is before we conclude the course. So while I conduct this mock interviews, I will be able to analyze you as to, okay, you guys have started from zero, and on daily basis, how you guys are progressing, whether you're getting the topics that I'm telling you, the interview questions that I'm covering, whether I'll see whether there is an improvement area on individual or not. If not, I'll be giving the feedbacks or recommendations or suggestions that, okay, you might be good at communication, but the way of articulating the answer might not be good. So there is an improvement, right? Or if you are losing the pace, or if you are just answering 50% of the question, probably I'll correct you. Okay, this is to what extent you must have reached, but there is something else that I might have to cover from an interview perspective. Why? Because the interview panel might expect a lot from you, right? So I might not be knowing that, but we have almost 18 people who might have joined this session now. So I mean, out of 80 people, not everybody is an experienced individual, correct? You might be having fresher, you might be having a non-technical individual, you might be having an IT professional already. So the interview pattern might change different for a fresher, for a non-technical individual, for an IT employee, right? So can I know, let's take an example of an IT employee who might be having, let's say 5 years or 6 years of experience as a testing engineer or as a developer. and they have learned Azure DevOps course. Do you think they will be getting a job as a fresher?
No.
No, right? So they definitely have to project some experience, correct? So
Right.
when you put experience in your current profile that you're already working on Azure DevOps while searching for a job, do you get the same questions where the interview panel is questioning a fresher?
Definitely not.
No, right? So the expectations would be pretty much high. So if you complete this course with me, you can easily project at least 3 to 4 years of experience on Azure DevOps. So that is what the combination, that is what the uh, deep dive that we will be actually getting into the course, right? So that's where it is very much important for me to gauge each and every individual who is going to opt for this course so that I'll be ensuring that you're progressing, you're upskilling yourself, and you're ready for the interview, right? That's where the mock interviews will help actually everybody and will obviously help in resume preparation on case to case basis. And since you might have taken decision to move to Azure, so I'll be telling you and giving you career guidance as to how your career is going to be in the next 10 to 15 years if you go and adopt Azure or Azure DevOps, right? So on top of that, we have added corporate etiquettes. So why corporate etiquettes in the Azure DevOps course? Why? Because do you think a fresher knows about anything on a technology or a IT company, how a company works, how we get projects? No, right? So I'm here to teach you guys the corporate etiquettes, how a company works, how we get projects, how we form team, how we hire people, what kind of roles that we will be having in a DevOps team, right? Who is a project manager, who is a lead, who are stakeholders, who is a customer or client, what kind of roles and responsibilities that we have to perform, how we have to behave with the team, right? So when a problem comes, how we have to go and handle it, right? A lot of things from the corporate equities I'll be teaching you as well. So once you complete this course and once you join in a company as an Azure DevOps engineer, you should not have to bother about it. So the sustainability of after joining the company, I'll be always I will be anyways teaching you guys in the course. On daily basis, we'll take a scenario and we will understand, okay, this is the scenario, this is how you have to play your role, this is how somebody will pitch in, or you have to coordinate with somebody else to make sure that we are getting the job done and we are adding value to the customer, right? And also teach what is an appraisal, how you need to be smart to get a good rating, to get a good hike, right? How you have to impress your manager, things and stuff also will be talking about, right? So these are all add-ons to the course content that we have. Why? Because it's just not technology that you have to learn, guys. It's all about the surrounding areas also you have to concentrate on. Why? Because everything will go hand in hand. That's why it is very much important to learn the corporate etiquettes. So apart from that, I'm very good at multi-cloud, as I said, right? Microsoft Azure, AWS, GCP, Alibaba Cloud, and DevOps. And on the other side, I'm very good at SQL Server database and Power BI from business intelligence. I'm very good at PowerShell scripting and being a project manager. So my day-to-day roles and responsibilities would be project management, stakeholder, client management, people attrition, ITLR operations, and I'm very good at onboarding brand new projects into the company and offboarding the projects that are in the verge of completion. So I acted as a transition manager previously, and I've been into abroad multiple times, and I've been taken the projects from on-site to offshore, and have set up the projects very well, and they were delivering pretty much good now. So I've did multiple certifications that you can see on the screen, and on top of that, I'm a Microsoft certified trainer since 2 years, and I'm happy to be certified trainer from Microsoft officially. So the kind of training, the kind of content, the kind of real-time scenarios that I'll be bringing in are completely different when we compare with anybody else in the market. So this is all about myself, guys. So this is just to give you certain background as to, okay, this is what your trainer's capabilities are. This is what they did previously, and this is what they're currently doing, right? So that you will be getting some confidence and trust that, okay, probably I'm gonna enroll to this course with Career IT with a good trainer. So any questions at this point of time before we move on to the demo session? Any questions?
No questions.
Great, thank you. So let me go back to the demo session. So before we move further, right? So today's agenda is to give you an understanding as to what is DevOps. But before that, we need to know how, in a traditional way, the software development is used to be in the market, right? So we'll try to go back at least 20, 30 years back, and we'll try to understand what are the ways that we used to have to develop a software and deliver it to the customer, right? Why? Because see, we are in an era of 2022, and we might be using smartphones with AI enabled, artificial intelligence enabled smartphones, right? But if you go back, let's say if one of my kid is asking us to, hey dad, what is this all about, right? So let's say my kid is close to 6 years old now. Obviously, they tend to ask when they see something new, when they see something my dad or my mom is actually continuously using to talk with certain people. So they will ask, "Hey dad, what is this all about? The smartphone, right?" So I might have told her a story stating that probably in 60s or 70s, 1960s or 70s, we used to have a landline phone. Then we might have come up with a new technology, and we might have implemented and we have come up with a basic feature phone, right, where there's a small screen and a keypad, right? Or before that, we might used to have pagers, correct, to send messages, right? Then from the feature phone, we have come to a basic smartphone, again with the smart screen but keypad. We might have adopted 2G generation, right, the second generation from the mobile network perspective. Then we have come up with a basic smartphone where you might have seen the full screen, which is with smart screen, and you don't have a physical keypad, right? Everything you will be able to perform using the screen itself, the touch screen, right? So we might have adopted third generation of the network over there, right? Then we know we have adopted 4G, and you see how come the smartphones have come into market, and now the 5G is coming in, and obviously in India it is going to come up. Probably in other countries they might have be already adopting it. And we are in 2022, and we have AI enabled smartphones. And if you look after the next 5 years, we don't know what kind of phones that are going to come up, but definitely better than what we might have, correct? So in the next 5 years, probably nobody might use laptop. Everybody might do the work in the mobile phone itself. We don't know, right? So most of the people now are doing their work in the tablets that we have, correct? So that is how the technology is actually evolving, and we definitely have to go ahead and adopt that with the change in the time and technology. So in the same way, in order to know what exactly DevOps and why it has a lot of boom in the market, why there are a lot of openings in the market, what made the technology uh, go ahead and adopt by all of the customers throughout the world. So before we understand what is DevOps and what we have a lot of opportunities, let's talk about the traditional way of developing a software, right? So before that, let's talk from a day-to-day life example, right? So any volunteer who wanted to have a quick chat with me to just talk about uh, certain day-to-day examples so that we can have an interactive session. Any volunteer who wanted to have a quick chat to talk from a traditional way of developing the software. Any volunteer who wanted to talk with me.
So, Kranti, this is regarding,
Just a day-to-day example to help you guys correlate something. Nothing rocket science as such, just a casual talk.
got it. Yeah, we can go ahead.
So may I know your name, please?
Prakash.
Hey, Prakash, thanks for volunteering, man. So Prakash, did you ever prepared a plain white rice for lunch or dinner?
Yes, I do.
Yes, right. May I know the process of preparing the rice?
I used to take a small bowl of rice, raw rice,
Mm-hmm.
uh, twice, just to make it clean.
Mm-hmm.
After that, I mean, like, I'll take the enough quantity of water and try to keep on whistle or rice cooker, electrical rice cooker.
Okay, great. So do you have only one method to prepare rice?
There are multiple ways. I mean, it's up to
Multiple.
us which to choose.
It's up to us.
Right.
So let's talk about certain methods or processes to prepare a plain rice. Output is the same, but various methods, correct?
Right.
Output is the same, right? Let's say if I want to go to Bangalore from Hyderabad, I can directly go to the Bangalore highway, like let's say Anandapur, things and stuff that I can go. Otherwise, I can take a Chennai route. I can go till Tirupati. From there, I can go to Bangalore, or I can fly to Coimbatore. From there, I can go to Bangalore, or I can go to Bangalore directly in a flight. From there, I can go to Bangalore. A lot of, but the output is the same. You will reach your destination, correct? So let's talk about
Right.
the preparation of a rice. Okay. So let's say I have to prepare rice for a couple of people. I'll take 2 cups of raw rice. I'll clean it properly at least 2 times. Then if I have time, I'll soak the rice by adding double the quantity of water. Let's say if I have 2 cups of raw rice, 4 cups of water I'll add, right? Then I'll soak for 10 to 15 minutes so that rice will be cooked absolutely perfect. What I'll do after 15 minutes, probably I'll put the bowl in the rice cooker and I'll put up the lid and turn on the switch, and the rice would be absolutely cooked in 15 or 20 minutes without a human intervention. Agree?
Right.
This is
Yes.
what this is an automated method, right? Then you have something else. You might have seen two other methods. Let's say it is on wood fire in our grandfather's days or grandmother days in olden days. Then you might they might have come up with a pressure cooker preparation as well, right? So let's talk about
Right.
both of them. Again, the same formula: 2 cups of raw rice. You wash it or clean it. If you have time, you add the water. Now, since you're preparing outside in a gas stove, what you do, you add 4.5 cups of water. Why? Because if you are preparing outside, what happens? The water will evaporate. Why? Because it is outside, correct? So add 4.5
Right.
cups of water and put the vessel on the gas stove, and you lighten the gas stove. And initially, you have to put in high flame for 5 minutes, correct?
Yes.
Then you will be bringing it to medium flame for 10 minutes. Then in the in the low flame for 5 minutes, and the rice would be cooked absolutely perfect. This is a preparation of manual method of preparation on a gas stove. So, Prakash, sorry. So in this manual method, on frequent basis, human intervention is needed, correct?
That's true.
Why? Because let's say, okay, you put the rice bowl on a vessel on top of gas stove, and if you lighten it, and if you have put it in high flame, and let's say you're gone and watching TV, what is going to happen?
Yeah. I mean, we need to monitor that. I mean, like, we need to look at the visuals. I mean, some intervention is
Yeah.
required. I mean,
Yes. So if you put in high flame, let's say for 10 minutes, what is going to happen? It will overboil. It will come out of water will come out of it. Correct. And if you
that's true.
still don't put it in the sim, it is going to burnt. Right?
Right.
So you might not get the product, the output, the plain rice, whatever the expectations that you have, you might not get it.
Yes.
Even the pressure cooker, the same thing. So if you put it in high flame and if you leave just like that, probably the white water might not come out. Why? Because it's a closed lid, right? So what happens?
Right.
It is gonna definitely burnt, right? So what are our takeaways out of these situations? So we learned about, let's say, two ways where we can go ahead and prepare a plain rice. And automated way is like a DevOps approach, which we'll be talking about it. There is no, I mean, human intervention is required, but we can automate things later. So in manual way preparation, every time there is a frequent interruption from the human that is needed to check the rice whether it is properly cooking or not, right? But the output would be the same in pressure cooker or in manual way, right? So in the same way, we'll learn about software development lifecycle now, right? So what is software development lifecycle? It is basically a process. It is basically a process which will be used by the software development companies. So whenever they get requirement from the customers, they will design the software, they will develop the software, they will test the software, and they will deliver it to the customer. While they are delivering, there should not be any compromise on the quality or the security. So I'm preparing rice. Do you think I'll be just preparing for the namesake? If I add additional quantity of water, what happens? The rice, the output might not be good,
Yeah,
right?
not.
Everything
Yes.
that you prepare, everything that you manufacture, everything that you design and develop, it is for what? Perfect output is a product, right? That should be there so that people will appreciate us. People, while eating it, let's say, Prakash, you prepared rice for your guests, let's say relatives or friends, whatever it is. So they should not question you that how come this rice is, the output of the rice is very bad. Correct? You should not have to listen the feedback from them. That's where you'll concentrate and you'll put efforts to make sure that the rice is absolutely coming perfect. So in the same way, whenever we get the requirement from the customer, our ultimate job is we need not to compromise on the quality, on the security of the software that we are going to deliver, right? Obviously, delivering a software would be having a time bound, time bound. Let's say if you want to prepare rice for your lunch, obviously you might have to prepare by, let's say, 12:30 p.m. itself, IST, correct? Or max to max 1 p.m. Why? Because that is a lunch time, right? So if you exceed the time, the delivery time, what is going to happen? Probably the customer might not be satisfied. Let's say I'm visiting a restaurant to dine in. I ordered food. Obviously, 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes is the wait time. But let's say if it is taking half an hour, still the waiter did not come. How did you feel? Obviously you'll get a bad impression on the restaurant, correct? You might not go to the same restaurant again. So it all
Right.
depends on what quality, customer satisfaction, right? So this is the process that is involving in software development lifecycle, right? I mean, this is a definition that we might have gone with, but in order to prepare a software or develop a software, you have to follow certain models. What are those models? We just talked about a couple of processes to prepare rice, correct? In the same way, to develop a software, we have to go ahead and talk about certain models, which one you wanted to choose for your software development. Like we just choose manual method or rice cooker automation method. It's up to you, right? But we'll talk about the traditional way of developing the software today before we pitch on to DevOps, right? So in prepare developing the software, we used to have a lot of models like Waterfall Model, Agile Model, V Model, Spiral Model, a lot of other models. It's up to you as to which one you wanted to go ahead and choose. But in traditional days, a lot of software development companies used to go with Waterfall Model. A lot of companies used to go with Waterfall Model. The Waterfall Model has been used 20 years back. Just 2 decades back, Waterfall Model has been used. It is not being used nowadays. Why? Why? Because there are a lot of disadvantages that we have if you go with Waterfall Model, right? So let's talk about from a day-to-day example again. So Prakash, if I have to, let's say I have a brand new laptop which is having Windows 10 operating system and MS Office. May I know if I'm using Windows operating system, what are the browsers that will be coming into my laptop by default?
It's a default Internet Explorer, but very sometimes it got
All
Chrome
right.
and not Firefox, Chrome. Yeah.
No, Microsoft browsers are your Internet Explorer, but that is now decommissioned anyways. But since we're installing Windows 10, yes, even Internet Explorer will come. But Edge
Right.
is also coming up with Windows 10. These are Microsoft products, but we are familiar with installing Google Chrome, correct?
Right.
So what we do in order to get a Google Chrome browser, you type in install Google Chrome in the browser and you'll get an official link, and
Right.
you go
Download
and
it.
download something. What do you download something?
It's a package. I mean, like exe.
Yes, you download an exe.exe file. Once it is downloaded, what you do, you double click to install it, correct? To execute it.
Right. Right.
Then you will be having the browser installed in your machine. But
Right.
did we ever did we ever bothered about knowing from where the .exe file has come?
It's in the repository, I mean, like their repo.
Yeah, it's in the Google repos. I
Google
mean, if I
repository.
have to say, it is in the Google production environment, which is a live environment, which is open to everybody. So google.com, what is that? It's a browser. That's a obviously production environment for the Google where we can access, we can, I mean, that's a search engine and you can do anything, correct?
Right.
But few people who might not be from the testing or development background, they might not be knowing what exactly the background of coming up with the .exe file, correct? Why?
Right.
Because who has developed developers from Google might have used a programming language, let's say Java, .NET Technologies, or Python or Node.js, whatever the programming language they might have used. They might have developed some programming files, they have compiled it, and the result of the compilation is the .exe file, which is made available to the public like us in the internet, right? So Google Chrome is what it's a open source software or a browser which is available to the public. We should not have to pay a single NP to use it, correct? So
Right.
we'll talk about the role or how that particular .exe file has been placed in the public internet so that it is available to the public like us to go and install. Obviously, .exe file is what it's a product of Google, right? It's a browser or it can be what we call it as it's a package which is made available to the public, correct? So what are the struggles, what are the challenges, what kind of work the Google developers, testers, or the release and deployment team or the IT support team has worked to make that software available to the public? We'll talk about it today in a traditional way of developing the software. Okay, so let me take out the slides and let's talk about waterfall model in depth today. Okay, so let's open one of the picture that I have, right? So we'll talk from a generic language to help everybody understand this, right? So I would be taking an example of Flipkart. So Flipkart, everybody knows about it. So it's an Indian e-commerce website that we have in the market. So may I know when did Flipkart has been established its operations in India? In which year? Any guess?
Probably 2010 the time.
hmm So probably it's 2008, I can say. But from
Yeah.
2010, probably the website might have come available to the public in India, so that we might
Yes.
have signed up, we have browser to the product, we have added to the cart, we have proceeded to the payment gateway, and we might have used debit card, credit card, or cash on delivery, and we placed the order, and the product might have delivered to us. This is ultimate goal of Flipkart, correct? So let's assume we are in 2008, guys, so that we can connect the scenario. So let's assume we are in 2008 and there is a founder or somebody from Flipkart. Probably he might not be from the programming language perspective, but is having an idea to start a startup, right? But they might be having money to invest, but they don't have the knowledge from the programming perspective. So let's assume Flipkart has given business to a software development company called TCS. Okay, guys, why I'm talking about Flipkart, TCS is why because we generally know about those companies so that it will help us to correlate the situation. So let's understand Flipkart has given its business to TCS to $flipkart.com e-commerce website. Okay, so TCS has bagged the project. I mean, let's assume this is just another option. Okay, so that we will learn and we will know what exactly the situation is. So now since TCS has grabbed the project, what they have to do? Obviously, the requirement is to develop a software or a product or a website, right? Obviously, TCS company has to follow an approach. Obviously, they have to follow a software development lifecycle process. So in SDLC, we are having these many stages. So generally, 5 to 6 are people can maximum go to 7 stages as well. So these are the stages which are involved in software development lifecycle list. So we just learned preparation of rice. There is a step-by-step process, right? In the same way, to develop a software, we have step-by-step process which we have to follow and adhere to. Then only the output of the software would be very beautiful, and it would be based on the customer expectations. So once TCS has got the project, what they have to do, they have to plan the things. So we have 7 stages in SDLC. So the very first thing is planning. What TCS has to plan? TCS has to collaborate with Flipkart, and they have to plan all of these things. What are the things? Okay, well and good, we got the project. Now, how many resources that we need to develop the Flipkart.com? Resources in the sense you need to hire developers, you need to hire testers, you need to hire project manager, you need to hire a technical lead, you need to hire, let's say, somebody from IT support or somebody from release and deployment. A lot of people that we have to hire from different perspectives, right? So let's talk about the planning stage in depth now. So TCS has to hire headcount, right? Let's say 23 people they are hiring for Flipkart project, and they need to take some additional headcount as well. We need to take additional headcount as well on top of the 23 billable headcount that we might have got. Why? Because in a given day, do you think all the 23 employees will go to company and work? No. Why? Because we are humans. We tend to fall sick. We might have to come up with some emergency situations, right? Let's say your kid might not be doing well. Do you think will you be able to in a position to go to office? Probably we might not. We will put a leave, correct? That's where whenever somebody is absent, you should have some buffer, additional people to take care of that work. Then we'll talk about billing. Well and good, we got the project from Flipkart to TCS. So how the revenue that we will be getting on our 23 resources, what is the billing rate that they will be giving from the money perspective, right? Then we'll talk about licenses or infrastructure, let's say operating system, Windows servers or Linux servers, databases or servers. A lot of things that we will be talking about on the licenses to develop the product. Then we'll talk about transport, food, logistics, infrastructure, or payment gateway related things with Flipkart, right? So everything will be dealt in planning section, guys, planning stage. So once the planning is done, customer will give you a deadline probably. Okay, this is the project I'm expecting you guys to deliver in 60 days. So how many resources that you need for 60 days, you can go ahead and hire it, right? So we have got a deadline now. TCS has bagged the project and we have to deliver that in 60 days. So now the planning stage is done. Then we have few people from requirement analysis as gathering. So what the requirement gathering from Flipkart from TCS will do, they will again reach out to Flipkart and they will gather the details. What are the details that they have to gather? Let's assume I'm opening flipkart.com now. So obviously the requirements would be a login page has to be come up. There is something that should be popped up if you are opening Flipkart for the very first time. So if an user who is already having a login, they will be going with their email ID or mobile number and password. Otherwise, they will create a new account. So this is one page that has to be come on. And this is what the banner says Flipkart logo, search box, login button, or become a seller cart. Then the module should be shown up, or the categories, top offers, groceries, mobiles, things and stuff. Then ongoing offers for the day. So whenever you browse through here, you should be getting what are the offers that we have. Then the top offers, fashion deal, something. And if you come down, you should be getting something like about Flipkart, right? Careers in Flipkart, payment related things, shipping related things, their policies, social media handles, and Flipkart address, and the payment gateways, and the payment gateways at the bottom. These are all the things that should be displayed. So TCS will gather all of these requirements from the customer, right? So once the requirement analysis or gathering is done, we will be freezing this stage, guys. We will be freezing this stage. Why? Because we are following waterfall model to develop the software for the customer. So once the requirement gathering is done, we'll be freezing. So we don't encourage customer to come back to again and change any new requirements or give any new requirements. Now the design team will be pitching in, and they will excuse me, they will start designing the software or website, right? Then the development team will pitch in and they will take the requirements from design and they start developing the code. They may take Java, .NET technologies, any code that is preferred by the customer, or you can go ahead and suggest the customer. The development team will start building the code that is required to develop the Flipkart.com, right? So once the development is done, the testing team will be pitching in and they start testing the product, and they will be checking whether the development team has absolutely developed the product with customer requirements or not. If in case in the testing, if some feature is not working, probably they can raise a bug. They can raise a bug with the development team, and the development team will be reworking on the programming language or code, and they will be fixing the bug. Again, the testing team will test it, and they certified that yes, the product is absolutely working perfect and it's time to deploy into the production environment, right? So once the testing is done, you would be having the deployment team who will be deploying the product into the production environment. Then only we'll be able to access flipkart.com using the internet, guys. So this is all the stages that would be involving in developing the software. Once you deploy into the production environment where this product is available to public, you have one more team called maintenance and monitoring team. So this team will be monitoring for any bugs, or they will take the feedback from the customer, right? And they will be working towards maintaining the servers, or taking care of any outages, or providing the server hardware to the team. A lot of things that they will be taking care from the maintenance perspective, right? So these are all the stages that are involved in developing a software and delivering it to the customer with quality and security, guys, right? So this is all about the waterfalls model. So the waterfall model, the name itself says waterfall. So let's assume if I take a glass of water and if I'm pouring down to the ground level, will I be able to bring the water back? No, right? Let's say a river. River flows towards a direction, correct? River flows towards a direction. So once the water is flowing towards a direction in the river, will I be able to bring the water back? No, I cannot. It is not possible. I'm not God. I'm not a magician, correct? So in the same way, whenever you are following the waterfall model approach, whenever you complete one stage and you go to other stage, you cannot go back and correct the changes. So let's talk about the disadvantages of waterfall model now. So as I already discussed, once we gather the requirement from Flipkart, we'll be freezing this requirement analysis stage. Okay, let's assume a scenario. Once the development is done, once the testing is done, once the deployment team is going and deploying the things in production, now the customer has come at this deployment stage and giving a change to us. What is that change? Let's go back to flipkart.com. As you can see, we have how many modules? 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So initially customer has told us to develop the top offers module, right? We developed it. So customer is telling at the deployment stage, stating that guys, well and good, you have developed this module, but I need a drop down here in top offers. What is a drop down? You see, whenever I hover on the fashion, I'll be able to get some details here like men, women, kids, essentials, winter wear, things and stuff. So everywhere, let's say if I'm going to men top wear, you see men's t-shirts, casual t-shirts, formal shirts. There is a drop down. Whenever I hover here, it is coming up here, correct? Now customers are requesting at the deployment stage, stating that guys, I need a small change to the requirements initially that you have guys taken. So I need a drop down at top offers. So when I hover on this, I should get men 15% off, women 30% off, kids let's say 40% off, electronics, laptops let's say 15% off. That is how the things should be coming up in drop down section here. This is the requirement that customer is now giving at the final stage. Do you think at this point of time we can go ahead and accept the changes? Yes, at this time, can we go ahead and accept the changes? Can anybody answer?
It's on final stage. It depends. I mean, like how contract was signed.
So we cannot. So Prakash, we prepared rice, correct? Let's say you wash the rice, you soaked for some time, and you put it in the rice cooker. You switch on the button, and the rice has cooked for 10 minutes. And now your wife is coming. If you're married, sorry. Let's say your wife is coming and stating that, hey, why are you preparing rice? It's weekend. Why don't you prepare pulao for me now? Is it possible, Prakash, at that time? 10 minutes rice has cooked a bit.
Yes,
Is
it
it
cannot.
possible for you to? It is not, right? So you can basically go ahead and satisfy a requirement. But you have to put whatever that has boiled to some extent. You have to probably throw it in the dustbin. Then you have to prepare the process from the scratch. Then you can satisfy the requirement. But what will happen? It will take your efforts and time. It will need additional rice, additional ingredients, right? Lot of things.
Right.
So what happens? What is our deadline here? They have given 60 days initially, correct? So if I go ahead
Yes.
and satisfy the customer at this stage, it might cross 70 days, 75 days. But do you think for 15 additional days, customer will be paying additional to us? You know, right? In software, in IT company, we were particular about what? Why will work? We'll work for billing only, correct?
That's true. Yes.
Right? So do you think customer will be able to give billing for additional 15 days for the new requirement that they're given? No, they don't give it. And I'll tell you one more thing. So we got the project to TCS and customer already decided that the 60 days you guys have to deliver it. So we have hired how many developers or team? 23 plus buffer. So let's assume there is another customer like let's say we have one more customer like Walmart. So we have one more project in the pipeline, guys, right? So for Walmart has given one more project to TCS, and TCS has committed that we will be going and starting your project in the next 2 months. Once this project is completed, we'll be immediately starting your project. So we've already given commitment to this customer, right? And do you think once the 60 days is done, I have to release all of this 23 and I have to put for Walmart customer, correct?
Yes.
Right? So now do you think I have time to spend the developers to complete one more requirement? No, I don't have. So this is how the commitments happens with the companies and customers. So I've already, TCS has already given commitment to Walmart. Let's say we got this project from Flipkart today. So today is what? Today is 28th of August. Let's say by 31st of October, let's say we have to wind up flipkart.com, developing flipkart.com website. Let's say from 1st of November, we have to start Walmart. Do you think if we accept the new requirement from the customer, we'll be able to cater the same developers to the same customer? No, why? Because we have already committed these 323 developers to other project. So we cannot do it. That's the reason one. This is the very biggest disadvantage if you go ahead and implement waterfall model. That's where nowadays customers are not liking it. Why? Because customers are so agile, they're dynamic. They need the requirements to be done at any cost. And one more disadvantage is there is a dependency of each and every stage. So how much team that we have? 23. So I have allocated 3 people to planning, 3 people to requirement gatherings, 5 people to design, and 6 people to the development, 3 to testers, 2 for deployment team, and 1 for maintenance. And how many days? 60 days. So how I allocated the days from TCS? 5 days for planning, 5 days for requirement, 10 days for design, 30 days for development. Why? Because development takes a lot of time. Why? Because I have to develop the programming language. And testing, I'm allocating 5 days, and deployment, I'm allocating 5 days. Maintenance, I'm not bothering. Why? Because this is post production, right? So let's talk about one more disadvantage. So every team in waterfall model is having dependency, guys. So when planning team is working, every other team do not have any work. They have to sit idle. Requirement team don't have any work. Design, development, testing, these teams don't have any work. So once planning team has spent 5 complete days, then only the requirement gathering team will be pitching in and they will be starting their work. And when requirements team is working, design team, development team, testing, deployment, maintenance, they don't have any work. So we are not utilizing their resources appropriately here. So this is another big disadvantage that we have. And the third disadvantage that we have is, do you think developers should worry about developing the code, or they have to worry setting up infrastructure to deploy the product case? So let's say I want to prepare rice for my lunch. Do you think I'm a farmer? I'm coming up with my own crop. I'm taking it to the rice mill, and once rice has come, I'm taking to my home and I'm preparing rice, or I have everything available ready-made for me, where I have purchased a rice bag of 25 kg and I'm using it on daily basis to prepare rice,
The second, last method.
right? So developers should not have to worry about the infrastructure. They should not have to worry about the laptop configuration that they should have. Let's say Windows 10 operating system or Windows Server operating system or Linux operating system, SQL Server database or Visual Studio, or there are compiler tools. They should not have to worry about the server storage network guys. But who will help in an IT company for the developers to set up everything? The IT support team of TCS, correct? So do you think
Right.
if a developer is raising a ticket to IT support stating that I need this software, do you think the IT support will be acting super fast? No, they will take their own sweet time. But do you think the customer will hold for the time? No. So there is a huge dependency in the traditional way of developing the software between the IT support engineer and the development team, right? So that's where in order to avoid these disadvantages, we will be going and approaching DevOps. So the DevOps is what DevOps is. It's a combination of development team plus IT operations. So every team inside the DevOps project will be working hand to hand. They would be having a lot of collaboration, lot of collaboration and coordination. So whenever something is needed from infrastructure, they will be setting up quickly within no time, right? That's where DevOps is the latest technology that is booming in the market, where every customer is going and adopting DevOps approach for the software development. So in DevOps, yes, the customer can come at any point of time, guys, and give new requirements and can suggest changes to the existing requirements as well. And being from a software development company, yes, we have to accept those changes. We don't have any other choice. Do you think from TCS now, if I don't accept and respect the customer with new changes, do you think the customer would still be okay to work on the same project? Probably no. Why? Because the customer might be having other companies who might be accepting, who might be giving respect in coming up with the changes. So customer will go ahead and give the project to some other software development company. So I literally have to lose the business. So instead of losing the business, I have to go ahead and adopt a DevOps methodology in my company as well to make sure that I am satisfying the customers. I'm satisfying the customers, right? So this is all the story from the traditional way of developing the software case. Now what I will do, I'll play a video and you guys can tell me what exactly is going wrong with that particular video. So let me play one of the video that I have. 1 minute. Yeah, I'm playing the video. Just please observe it and let me know what exactly is happening on this so that we can discuss. So what is happening on this video, guys?
So he's trying to search something, I mean, like some item.
Mhm.
Something got disrupted. I mean, like it's not available, or like the backend data was not loading.
So what is this? We call it as in the development perspective. We call this a bug, correct?
Right.
Right. So I'm trying to purchase tables for my kid. So whenever I open on tables, it is not opening up. So let's do the same thing here. So what I'm able to see here, the home theaters, guys. So if I click on this, yes, you should see I'm already getting the bars or home theaters related information. But whenever I click on the tables, I'm not getting the details. It is saying something went wrong. So this is what this is a bug. So who has to work on the bugs? The testing team has to raise it, and the development team has to rework on the code to make sure that the bug or the broken link, whatever that is there, they have to go ahead and fix it, right? So being a customer, don't you think it is my job as well to report the bug to Flipkart? I can.
Yes.
So that will be coming in the maintenance and monitoring part. This is post-production that I just shown you. Or you can, before deploying it to production environment as well, it's the job of the testing engineer to test it. Either the case, whatever it is, right? So this is all about the software development lifecycle, and one of the model that we have discussed is waterfall model case. So let me take you to into the agile model that we have. So let's talk about the same situation. Let me take a snippet now to discuss. Guess how many developers that we have in the team now with the example that we have gone? We have almost 6 developers, correct? Let's assume we have 3 developers. We have 3 developers. So let's say one of the developer will be developing on top offers module. So I'm talking about agile model, guys, the DevOps model, if I have to say. So the second module that is being worked up by the developer 2, mobiles module is being developed by the developer 3. Okay, let's assume now the developer 1 has developed top offers. They will be moving on to fashion module. Now, since the development job is one, you have tester, the testing team will come in, the tester 1 will be start testing on top offers. Meanwhile, developer 2 has done his work of programming the code for the groceries module, and they will be taking up electronics, and the tester 2 would be coming up here. So meanwhile, the tester 1 would be finished testing top offers. They would be taking up the D3, and meanwhile, the developer 3 would be taking up home module. Okay. Now the tester 1 has completed and taken up the mobile modules. So your release and deployment team will be coming, and they will be deploying the top offers in the production environment. Meanwhile, the tester 2 has completed and they have gone back to fashion modules. Release and deployment team has come in here and they deployed groceries module into production, right? So the dev 1 has picked up appliance module now, right? So the release and deployment team has come into picture here, and they deployed mobile module into production. And once the release and deployment team is done, your monitoring and maintenance team would be monitoring the top offers module in the production environment. So what is happening here? Every team is simultaneously working. Every team is parallelly working together here. But in the waterfall model, is everything working parallelly? No, they're not working parallelly. So this is what your DevOps. So if you implement DevOps approach, you would be able to deliver the same project in 40 days instead of 60 days, guys. Why? Because every team is collaboratively working and working for a common goal. What is that common goal? To deliver the software to the customer within the stipulated time with highest quality and security. There is no compromise, guys. So the days that we are taking less comparatively to the deadline of the project, but we'll be able to deliver the same product with highest quality. So that is what DevOps is, where every team here, obviously the DevOps is nothing but it's a combination of development team and IT operations. So in IT operations, if I have to talk about, you have Azure infrastructure team, you have Azure storage team, you have Azure network team, you might be having a Windows or Linux or system administrator, you might be having an ITIL team, you have a Scrum Master, you have a release and deployment team, A lot of teams would be part of the same DevOps project. So if they need anything, they will collaborate and they will do the thing then and there itself. So they should not have to wait for something else. Why? Because every team that is needed to develop the software is part of the project, right? So let's move on to the slides that we have. So far what we have learned waterfall model, we just gone through requirements, design, and different stages, right? So we have gone through the disadvantages as well. So I don't want to go with that again. So let's talk about agile model, right? So agile is what we should be very flexible guys to adapt to the new changes, right? So let's say I wanted to change a company, guys. Let's say I'm a developer or a tester or let's say a DevOps engineer. Okay, I wanted to change the company now. And whenever I go ahead and give an interview, let's say I've cracked the technical interview and it's a managerial round. So manager will ask me, hey Kranti, so our project is based out of US and we are into DevOps, correct? So we need you to work in 3 different shifts. So are you okay to do a rotational shifts? Probably the APAC morning shifts 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. probably, and afternoon probably it might start from 12 p.m. to 9 p.m. in the night. Probably the night shift might start at 9 p.m. and it might end in the morning 6 a.m. Are you okay to do it? So I have to be flexible now. Why? Because I need a job. Obviously, customer might be having requirements where I have to go ahead and adhere to their timings. So if I don't agree, I'll be losing that job. Probably they might be offering a good package. If I deny it, probably next interview that I'm attending for one more company, even they are asking to do in shifts, let's say this time morning and afternoon. Or if I go to other interview, other company, they might just ask you, are you okay to work in night shifts? So we need to be flexible now. Why? Because we have the requirement. We have to compromise some of the other way. So agile is nothing but it's all about the dynamic nature that the customer is having, the dynamic requirements that the customer is coming up with. We need to go ahead and adopt them at any point of time in the developmental life cycle to make sure that we are providing value to the customer and we are delivering the software with the highest quality and security, right? So we basically take a requirement, we'll be splitting into multiple work items. We'll be basically splitting the big requirement into small chunks and we have multiple developers in the team. So we'll be assigning those requirements to the developers and they would be working simultaneously, right, to deliver the software in the stipulated time. So agile software is basically an iterative and incremental life cycle and it is an evolutionary development nowadays. So everybody is going and adopting the agile methodology. So agile methodology, just a very good example that I just spoke is any e-commerce website or any social media site that you take about. So I'll tell you one more example as well. So we might have installed WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn in our mobile phones, or you might tend to browse them in the browser, correct? So let's say I have WhatsApp installed and I have features from WhatsApp. So do you think uh, I should get an update in the next week or next month for sure, right? To update my WhatsApp application. May I know why I tend to get updates? It may be Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn, or Twitter, any mobile app that you take. Why we get updates?
Upgradation, some advance.
Yes, some advanced feature they will be releasing it. So why they will be releasing what is for the companies to develop advanced feature? Why? Because they have to sustain in the market. Why? Because they have competitors. So they always take the feedback from the customer and they will work and they will release the features into the market. So every company that you take, every social media networking or e-commerce website or any product that you take, they are following DevOps approach now. So the website is already existing, available to the public, but they still strive to come up with new features from the customer and they will implement the DevOps approach and they will be delivering the new features to the customers, right? So everywhere DevOps is being implemented and followed. So delay, we have already seen it. the development team and IT operations team, there is a coordination issue. So there is a huge gap which will help us in delaying the delivery probably. So now let's talk about the operations team's roles and responsibilities, guys. So we just spoke about what the development team or the tester team, right? Let's talk about the operations team's role in the DevOps project. So operations team will provide all the server hardware that is required, guys, for the product to be deployed into the development environment or testing environment or to the production environment. They'll also configure the servers whenever it is required in whatsoever the environment that we have. They'll configure network storage as well. They'll monitor the servers, they will respond to the outages that they have, and they will talk about IT security, right? So we should not have to compromise on the security. If you're compromising, you're basically giving an advantage to the hackers to hack your website or environment or infrastructure. So from security perspective, we need to play an important role. So change control activities also will be taken care by IT operations team. They will talk about and implement backup and disaster recovery for the respective infrastructure, and they will also provide support in the production. So these are all the roles and responsibilities of the IT operations team in the DevOps project. Now let's talk about Microsoft. So why we have to talk about Microsoft? Why? Because we are going to learn DevOps with Azure. So we're not going to talk anything about physical infrastructure, guys. We don't talk about anything from physical server hardware. Why? Because we are going to learn and probably deploy the things in the cloud environment in one of the remote data center which might be present somewhere else, right? So Microsoft Azure, Microsoft is it's a product-based company, well-known product-based company based out of Seattle, US. It has been into operating systems from 1970s, and later on it has been developed a lot of programming languages or development tools like Visual Studio or scripting tools like PowerShell. It has been into Power BI, Power Apps and Flow, SQL Server database. It has been into cloud services in the year of 2010, right? So why Microsoft has adopted cloud? Why? Because they have to sustain in the market, right? And they've named the cloud service as Azure, right? So why we have to go ahead and use Azure to deploy the product? Why? Because there are a lot of advantages of using cloud. So cloud is all about virtual environment. So we don't feel any physical server or hardware or storage equipment or networking devices, guys. Everything that we do in a virtual environment. So we just need probably a laptop, a browser, a subscription to the Azure portal or Azure DevOps account, and we just need internet. That's it. So with the help of internet, you can do miracles in cloud, especially Microsoft Azure, right? So we'll be gonna use Microsoft Azure's cloud environment to build, test, deploy, and manage the applications through the Microsoft managed data center space, right? So you can even implement DevOps in on-premises, right? But it doesn't make any sense from the infrastructure perspective. So if it is on premises within our office premises, if you're deploying something, and if one of the server goes wrong, it's we from the company perspective have to take the headache of fixing the server. But if you move to cloud, you're not going to buy any servers. You're taking the servers on rent, which means you use and you pay for the usage only. You don't pay anything additional. So there is no capital expenditure that is really required if you are going to cloud. But with the on-premises environment, you are basically going to buy the servers. Buy the server first, and you hire IT people, you do the configuration, then you probably deploy your application on the physical server hardware that we have. But in cloud, it's completely quite opposite. So if you move to cloud, the server hardware maintenance is the responsibility of Microsoft Azure only. It's not the responsibility of the customer. That's where we are going to learn DevOps with Azure. So let's talk about the importance of DevOps, right? So as we discussed, it's a collaborative effort, right, between the development team and IT operations team, where you will be bringing up multiple teams or departments in picture with process, with people, technology, where we'll be using certain tools, various tools which will be gonna use to automate the DevOps approach to deliver the software into the production, right? That's where if you go ahead and implement the DevOps approach, part of the software that you're delivering is having high quality, high security, and a lot of value that we're going to add to the customer. And we should not be able to deviate from the timeline that we are getting from the customer. So basically, a reliable product, a trustworthy product that we're going to deliver if you follow the DevOps methodology case. So this is a life cycle of Azure DevOps. So you can see this life cycle will always go in a loop. So you get a project, you plan the things with the help of customer, then you develop the things, the programming language, then we'll integrate and we'll build and we'll bring up the package and we'll test that and we will be releasing into the production. And once you release into the production, you have the maintenance and monitoring team. They will be keep on monitoring the product and take the customer feedbacks. And once the customer feedback is taken, again the things will be planned, developed, integrated, packaging, test release. So this is a never-ending cycle, guys. This always goes in a loop. So at each and every stage, you will use certain tools from Azure, right? The beautiful thing with Microsoft Azure is every tool that is required for the development for DevOps is inbuilt in the DevOps Azure portal by Microsoft itself. So we hardly use the third-party tools if you go ahead and implement Microsoft Azure DevOps case, right? But you take other cloud service providers as an example like AWS, GCP, they don't have their inbuilt tools from the development perspective. So they always rely on the third-party tools. But with Microsoft, every tool is already there and they have developed and we can go ahead and use it, right? So for planning, we'll use Azure boards. For developing, we'll use repos and GitHub. The DevOps engineering role job will be coming up here, guys. Mostly we'll be spending on Azure pipelines on the CI/CD continuation, integration and continuous delivery we'll be using here. And we'll use for packaging artifact, for testing, we'll use test plans. For releasing, we'll use Docker, Kubernetes, or web applications. And for monitoring, we'll use Azure Monitor. So this is how the DevOps life cycle will keep on going in a loop until the customer comes and stating that, hey guys, we're done with the project, so it's time to ramp down. Until that, we have to follow this loop and the stages that we have. So people will ask about certification always. Hey Kranti, okay, we are gonna enroll for the course of Azure DevOps. Why? Because we have an aspiration to get into DevOps roles. So is it required for me to go ahead and complete a certification once I complete the training? It is optional, guys. It is optional. It is not mandatory to complete the training certification. It is optional. But the prerequisite is whenever you are going with DevOps certification, which is AZ 400, the preliminary requisite is either you have to complete Azure administration course or Azure developer certification. You complete any one of from these and then you are eligible to go with AZ 400. But certification is basically not mandatory, it's an optional thing. Why? Because I'll tell you. Let's say we have 15 folks in the class. Let's say 15 folks have completed the training on Azure DevOps, right? And only 7 people have completed the certification as well. And the rest of the 8 people might not have completed the certification. Let's say they are attending an interview. Let's assume I'm the interview panel, right? So there is an individual who attended the interview with me where they have completed the training and they have completed the DevOps certification as well. And the other individual, they just completed the training. May I know whom I will select?
Priority will be the guy who is certified.
Persons who have
No,
certified the specific certification in the Azure part. So you have selected that, guys.
no, I don't select that individual.
It's
Irrespective,
always
you complete the
knowledge.
certification, you don't. Yes, you're correct. They have to satisfy me on the requirement that I have. They have to clear the technical round. They have to show their technical abilities that, okay, I know something and I've did from real time something. They have to satisfy me from the requirement perspective, guys. Why? Because nowadays certification, if you give money outside, they will be able to do it on behalf of you. but are you learning anything out of it? So if you genuinely take up the training, if you genuinely complete the certification, you can implement something in real time that will help you for sustainability perspective, right? That's where you take the certification, you don't take the certification, you clear the interview with me first. You prove your technical ability. That's where I'll be able to take it up, right? So this is
The
from the,
disturbance, Kranti.
pardon?
Sorry for that. Here, so most of the companies prefer to the certification who have certified this Azure something. So they are selected first the who have certified this. So after that, they prefer that who has proper stuff in that.
Yeah, I'll tell you a couple of scenarios here. So may I know who will actually put in the job description that we need DevOps certified engineers? It's not the company that is putting up, it's the customer who is actually making it as mandatory, right? So if you take 100 companies as an example, hardly 5 companies will ask for certified DevOps engineers only. Why? Because it's the customers of the company are making it mandatory. But you have 95 other companies who are not even asking certification. They are only asking, are you good from the technical perspective? So companies don't prefer certified DevOps engineers, just that you have to clear the concepts, that's it. I believe that makes a difference. That I believe I might have answered your question.
It is not in India, I mean, like in abroad, yeah, certification might play a role, but without knowledge, certification will not be useful. Yes.
Yes, obviously. See, I cannot blindly take that, okay, you are certified, I'll be selecting you. What if happens if that individual has made an escalation with the customer? Who is responsible for it? I need to take responsibility. That's where I will be very strict in terms of taking the candidates. I just don't blindly
Ethics
go with,
knowledge.
okay, you're certified, I'll be taking it up. No. So let me take you all with the course content that we have. Then I'll be open to any question and answers. So this is the course content that we have, guys. So all in all, what I have to say is we'll be covering the AZ 900 Azure fundamentals. Then we'll be touching base on Azure administration related concepts, which is AZ 104. And then we'll be getting into the DevOps concept, guys. Why? Because you cannot directly learn DevOps. Why? Because we all understand that you guys might be pretty much new to the technology, to cloud computing, to Microsoft Azure. So I have a big capability to teach everybody from a layman language case. Even I can teach a person who doesn't know anything about IT nor a technology. So that is my capability. So I'll be teaching everything from the scratch. And if you ask me a question, Kranti, Azure DevOps, do we need to have any prerequisites? No, there is no prerequisite that is needed. Why? Because I'm able to teach you everything from the scratch, from zero, right? So we will go with everything from the scratch. We'll introduce to DevOps, right? We'll talk about the IT lifecycle or the IT architecture, how it would be, how DNS domain naming system will work actually. And we'll talk about networking. We'll talk about the cloud overview. We'll talk about a lot of concepts on the cloud, especially Microsoft Azure. So we'll talk about what is an account, tenant, subscription, resources, resource group. Then we'll talk about Azure networking concepts. Then we'll touch base from the Linux, right? From the shell scripting perspective, we'll be touching base from the Linux from the scratch, right? And we'll be moving on to the Azure compute related resources, virtual machines, then availability zones, sets, things and stuff. Then we'll be covering more from networking. We'll understand what is load balancer, what is security groups, things and stuff. Then we'll talk about storage perspective. Then we will introduce the DevOps related tools like Git, GitHub, right? Version controlling tool and the remote repositories. Then we'll talk about Terraform, which is from an infrastructure as a code perspective to deploy Azure resources. Right? Terraform is hot in the market case. So Terraform is a basic prerequisite from the technology perspective, right? Then we'll talk about a configuration management tool called Ansible, right? How you can set up your configuration for the deployments. Then we'll talk about the most happening tool in the market, which is Jenkins. So this is a CI/CD tool. This is the tool which will be mostly used by the DevOps engineers. So we are going to use Jenkins tool a lot. 80% of our job is on Jenkins or your Azure pipelines case. Being a DevOps engineer, 80% of the job would be on Jenkins, which is a third-party tool to manage continuation, integration, and continuous delivery. Otherwise, we have a tool from Microsoft as well, which we call it as Azure Pipelines, right? Then we'll talk about the most happening technologies in the market, Docker, Kubernetes case, right? So these are the things that are playing an important role in the market. So we'll be talking about Docker, Kubernetes. Then we'll touch base on monitoring tools. Obviously, once we deploy the product into the production, the monitoring team has to maintain it, right? So we'll use Azure Monitor, and we'll also use Nagios, which is a third-party tool for monitoring the server's case, right? Once this is done, we'll be going with Azure DevOps services. So we'll talk about Azure boards, repos, and we'll be mostly concentrating on Azure pipelines. Why? Because this is the role of a DevOps engineer to use Azure pipelines mostly. Then we'll talk about test plans and artifact. So this is what the course content is. So we'll start from the very scratch, right? So you should not have to bother as to Kranti, I don't have this prerequisite, so I'm eligible to learn this. No, not required, right? So the course duration might last from let's say 45 days to 50 days, and we are gonna take the classes from Monday to Friday, but hardly we'll take on Saturday. So we'll be informing if in case there is a class on Saturday on Friday itself, right? And we are gonna start the regular classes from this Thursday, which is 1st of September, guys. And the timings would be morning 6 a.m. To 7 a.m. IST. So this is what about the course content, duration, and the timings and the days. So now I'm open to any questions that go ahead and take it up. Any questions, guys?
Only one timing is this, huh? Only 6 to 7 a.m.
Yeah, as of now, we are gonna complete one of the batch. So we do have 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. batch available as of now.
So Kranti, normally we have whether we have any evening batches? Just to let you
Not as of now. We
know.
don't
Okay.
have any Prakash at this moment.
Earlier we used to have any evening batches. I mean, like because even earlier I asked the same question to Career IP because I was working on morning shift. So I'm just asking that.
I mean, we used to have long back, but we don't have since the office have been started, right? So,
Okay.
but we'll definitely are in a plan to come up with weekend batch, but we have to check. I mean, basically, I have a working hours of in the EMEA. I mean, in the afternoon time in India, if I have to say so. That is also one of the reasons. But we
Okay.
might definitely come up with some evening batches in the future. Even we see the
Okay.
demand is actually raising high in the market for evening batches.
Mhm. And it's confined to only 1 hour, right? I mean, like
Yeah, it is
Agile PDF.
confined to 1 hour. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? So I
So
believe
we'll be.
you guys might have understand as to what is the traditional way of developing the software and how things happens in DevOps. And this is how I teach in the daily classes as well. I'll take a lot of day-to-day examples so that you can correlate and you can easily grab the technical stuff. Yeah, somebody's asking something.
Yeah, Kranti. Yeah, today's session is very informative. Like we started with the basics. So we'll be having the complete, I mean, like going forward. If you're talking about any Azure functionalities, we'll have a complete walkthrough, right?
Yes.
This Suresh, actually, what are all topics will it cover, and uh, will it cover terraforms and everything in this course?
Yes, I've just gone through with the course content, right, Suresh?
No, no,
So you have just joined or?
no, I joined because in between
Oh, okay. I mean, before this Q&A session only, I have walked through the course content on my screen itself. Do you want to do it again?
No, it's okay. It's okay. I will. And anyway, I called up. I think so. One of the career employee. I think so. And she told that she will share again this
Course
recording.
content. Okay. Okay. Not a problem.
And Suresh, yeah, we
We'll
got
be
the
covering
email.
Terraform as well. Yes.
The complete content is shared in the email, I mean, like which we received.
Okay.
Oh, there you can see the attachment.
Any other questions? Guys, I think it's the right time. So you might have joined the demo. Why? Because you might have an intention to make your career in Azure DevOps, right? So any questions that you have, go ahead and get the clarity from me.
So how is the market strength Azure, Karthik?
So Azure is standing number one now. So I mean, till last month, I can say it is number two, but Azure is standing number one in the market now. Though, I mean, you might have known about AWS. It's a pioneer in the market in cloud. It might have started its journey in 2016, right? Then even Azure has adopted the cloud and it has been into market from 2010. But it has beaten AWS now and it is standing number one. Why? Because Microsoft is a developer friendly company, right? I mean, it has a lot of tools. Any developer, right, in their entire community, they definitely have to go ahead and use Microsoft tools for sure, right? Let's say if I have to talk about myself only, once I completed my SSC at 10th class, I might have joined a computer course where I learned Windows 7 or Windows XP or DOS, then MS Office. That's how I started my journey, and obviously, in everybody's mind, Microsoft might have already been there. But if you ask people about AWS, mostly they might not be knowing about it. But when you ask about what is Amazon, they used to tell this is an e-commerce website, but nobody used to talk about cloud services, right? So Microsoft being a developer-friendly company and it has been integrated with multiple programming languages, correct? So from integration perspective, you can integrate with Azure Active Directory, you can integrate with Office 365, you can integrate with Dynamics CRM Online. Everything is possible. But with other cloud service providers, no, it is a challenge, right? And you have a lot of jobs in the market, right? And one more beautiful thing is, I mean, if you're from India and we have 3 data centers in Hyderabad now, and I mean not in Hyderabad, in India. And the fourth data center is going to come up in Hyderabad in the next 1.5 to 2 years. And that data center is the second largest data center in the world of data centers. So we already have a lot of opportunities. I'm already settled, but coming up with a new data center, that too in Hyderabad in India, we have a lot of job opportunities, guys. So if you get into Microsoft Azure, you should not have to worry about your career for the next 10 to 15 years. Why? Because everybody is moving to cloud. Everybody who is in on-premises is moving to cloud. Every software development is happening in Azure DevOps now.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Welcome. Any other questions?
So Kranti, on Kubernetes front, I mean, like you'll be touching the basics, right?
Yes, we'll be getting into bit in depth as well.
It's AKS or like Azure Kubernetes.
Yeah, AKS is your Azure Kubernetes only, right?
Yeah.
So we'll be deploying our environment in the Kubernetes Dockers as well. So we'll get in depth. We'll start from deployments. We'll understand what is a cluster, what is a pod, what is a node, how we can deploy Docker containers, things and stuff. Everything will be covered. Any other questions? Okay, so I want to repeat it again. We are going to start the classes from September 1st, Thursday, from morning 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. IST, and the classes would be from Monday to Friday. At times, we might even take on Saturdays. So the course duration might last from 50 or 55 days. So it all depends on how well we are actually going on daily basis. So any last question that I can take it up before we call it for the day?
Sir, how many months for whole training, sir?
It might last from 50 to 55 days.
Okay.
Is this the recording sessions, right? So once everything is completed, so you have to share the email, right?
So if it is happening in the early morning, so probably by 11:30 a.m. IST, the recording would be available, and you should see the documentation as well from me in the same Google Drive. So I don't send emails. I'll upload all the documentation to the Google Drive itself that we're going to share with you, so that everything you'd be able to see there itself.
Sure.
Okay, thank you all. I hope you guys have liked the session. And if in case you wanted to enroll, yes, you can reach out to our institute. Thank you all. Have a great day. Happy weekend. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.